Shut up, compressor. Matt here with Duke's Models, and welcome to episode 3 of the Tamiya P-38F build. Now in part 2, it was all about getting the cockpit to a nice, happy place. In part 3, we're going to be moving on to the nose gear bay. So I've already got these parts all painted up from episode 1 in Moto T023, and they've also received an aquagloss wash of aquagloss, water, and Tamiya rubber black. Or in a few spots like back here, some Liquitex carbon black ink. Now, before I go ahead and cut these off the sprues and get everything assembled and installed, I want to do a bit of weathering while I currently have them all laid out like this before me. And that's going to start with some heavy chipping effects. Now, because the chipping fluid can have a tendency to bead up and separate on things like silver paints, I'm also going to go ahead and add a few drops of this Deravan Matisse surface tension breaker. This stuff does a fantastic job of keeping those little beads from happening. Make sure it's all mixed up in the airbrush. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to go and get some of the main gear bay elements sorted as well. May as well get some of those economies of scale going, right? Okay, let it dry for a few minutes and then we'll come in with the enamels. Okay, while the chipping fluid was drying, I went ahead and mixed up 4 different enamel colors that we're going to put down as weathering to be chipped. So first we've got Mr. Weathering Color Sandy Wash, thinned down with some Mr. Weathering Thinner. Next we've got Mr. Weathering Color Sandy Wash and Multi-Gray. Then we have multi-gray and grayish brown, and finally straight grayish brown. Just to give these gear bays a nice multi-hued look. First, I'm going to go with this mix of sandy wash and multi-gray. Remember, this is the side they'll be facing, the bottom. Not going for anything like universal coverage here. Just getting shit on it, basically. Cannot forget the nose gear sealing. Next up is the multi-gray and grayish brown. Exact same sort of rinse and repeat process here. Basically, it keeps everything from looking exactly the same. So, from angles, you can see how it's coming. Tough to see head on because of the reflection from the silver. Next up, the straight grayish brown. Part of me really wants to use this shit on the exterior of the aircraft too, which I may well do. Alright, last up, sandy wash. Okay, so now I'm here chipping, and one of the benefits of using that heavy chipping fluid is that it breaks for you really easy, but also requires a little bit of a different touch. I went a bit overboard maybe on this one, so what I've been doing is taking this brush, putting a little bit of water on the back of my hand, taking this brush, kind of getting it damp, and then just coming in too damp. And just getting most of it away so that we still have that little sense of this is a dusty gear bay, but not that, you know, there was a sandstorm or anything like actually inside the gear bay. Just a piling up in some places. Some places cleaned up as the crew is working, whatnot. That's not an annoying sound at all, is it? Okay, so coming out the other side of the enamel chipping, here is where the gear bays stand. Now we can start putting them together. In theory. There we go. One in the middle fits rather tight. It's probably a good thing, huh? And see, this is where you can see what was maybe exaggerated looking chipping and weathering. Once it's up here in the gear bay and everything is joined, it just seems to work. Cool. Slides in from the front. Just like that. Like, I haven't even glued, aside from those two parts, I haven't glued any of this yet. And then this just drops in like that. Amazing. Does this company know what they're doing or what? Holy shit. Okay, so let's glue the gear bay in, shall we? I might need to put that weight in first. Alright, now that the gear bay is glued in, let's go ahead and secure the metal weight. So, big old dollop of CA. I'm going to leave that there for a minute. This Loctite Ultra Gel doesn't really have too big of an issue with fogging. It basically fogs exactly where it's put, and that's it. But just in case, I'm going to leave this sitting here in the open before I go ahead and close everything up. Just because there's a little bit of proximity to the cockpit, and I don't really want to fuck that up. Okay, we're now in a position to glue the upper wing and cockpit pod and all that stuff to the lower portion. And it amazes me just how well these Tamiya kits go together these days. After fighting with several trumpeter kits in the last year, which themselves aren't too shabby, this thing is a revelation. I mean, the engineering of this, just in general, is blowing my dang mind. But when it all just fits together like this, it almost makes modeling fun. Get some glue in here. I'll just clothespin that for a minute. So I'm assuming in order to leave itself room to kit additional variants of the P-38, Tamiya has left the leading edge of the wing as a separate part. I believe it's the L where it switches to a wingtip landing light instead of one on the lower wing. And that's damn ambitious. And honestly, I wouldn't have any faith in any other kit manufacturer being able to pull this off without the fit just being garbage. But this is Tamiya we're talking about. And just check that out. That is amazing. I mean, there's a little bit of pressure that you need to put here just to get it to seat properly, but I mean, that, holy shit. That's just showing off at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and lock down the inside of this first. If that was like Kitty Hawk or Academy, whoever else, it would just be a giant hot mess. Tamiya wanders in and they make it look easy. Literally the hardest part is just making sure that you're holding it nice and level when you glue it so you don't give it any weird high spots or anything like that. Alright, moving on to the lower outer wings. These things are also just sublime drop fit goodness. I'm gonna wait and lock these in until I'm doing the control surfaces back here. Good God. This company. So one area of the P-38 that's coming for a bit of flack is the nose guns, because they are attached to this little frame thing and they are not very detailed. Not only are they not detailed, but the way that this is engineered forces you to install them before you install the nose. Like so. Now, I mean, they fit great and that's awesome, but then you have to deal with painting the guns around the various openings and not getting shit everywhere, and it's a huge pain in the ass, and in addition, they're just not very detailed. So I invested in the Quick Boost set, which includes basically a replacement frame, a shitload of barrels, and then a little like cup dealie that goes down here for the central barrel. Now, I was hesitant about these because I was thinking, okay, as annoying as this is, it fits, etc., etc. But I've got to hand it to Quick Boost here. They went and designed something else that fits. So if you look, the frame is basically identical, right? And it's got these little protrusions. I know that focusing is a nightmare on this thing right now. These protrusions have holes in them so you can mount the barrels after you get everything else built. And they protrude just enough. They install very painlessly into the nose, just like that. Which is something I love to see. Simple, elegant, fits, etc. So since they fit like this, I'm going to go ahead and glue them down. And for this, I'm going to use some of my preferred ammo black, which is a slower setting CA. Gives me a little bit more working time. It's all that kind of fun stuff. Because the thing I don't want to do is I don't want to clog those openings with pointless shit. I just basically want to get this thing glued with the least amount of fuss possible. But swinging around to the front there, you can see the holes for mounting the barrels are nice and visible. So none of this blind poking around in the back of the thing trying to get stuff to fit. It's already there. Which I am very, very happy about. Now this next one is a bit interesting. Because we need to install it in a way that it rests where it needs to rest, because there's no real like locating protuberance or any of that kind of stuff. It just kind of sits in there. Now it does sit in there quite snugly, so we have that going for us. Yeah, it's looking very good from the outside. So I'm going to let these set up, and when we are done, we'll be able to move on to more of the P-38, including the nose and the gun doors and all that kind of stuff, before moving on to more of the wings. Fantastic. Okay, so now that I've got the quick boost barrel mount installed into the nose here, I can go ahead and install this and the ammo doors, and we can move right along. Now, one thing I did notice as I was test fitting is that this little tab up here up front was actually interfering just a little bit with that round bit that houses the cannon barrel. And when it would go on, it would kind of want to sit like this, because the ledge and that cylinder were just not working. So I got out of the Proxxon and kind of ground away a little bit at that, just to open up a little bit of space. And now, hey, look at that. But before we install this, I had to put on the ammo doors, which are a treat. So basically they fit, come on. Well, they were fitting wonderfully a moment ago when I wasn't trying. There we go. I don't know what I was doing there. When I first test fitted these things, they just like fell into place. And then I go to install them for real, and it's like, idiot show. I mean, look at that. They fit so nicely, we don't really even need to glue them. And there are little tiny gaps here, but that makes sense because they are ammo doors, and if you look at pictures of the real thing, they didn't always fit super snug. Tolerances on World War II aircraft were a lot more lax than we tend to believe. So yeah, everything basically fits like that. So I need a little tiny bit of Tamiya extra thin in a few places just to hold things down. I love when things just fit. Focus, come on. Come on, right here. There we go. Alright, let's mosey on to some wingtip goodness and work on the ailerons. Tamiya gives these to you in two parts. Thankfully, the joined part and the visible seam and whatnot are on the underside. Always love to see that. Fits up pretty nicely. And once those are happy, we can draw a quick bead across this line. And that awful Tamiya fit. Nothing ever goes together right. including the very curiously shaped wingtip. Tamiya actually nails that little uplift on the underside. Jesus. Again, how do other kit companies even hope to keep up with this? I mean, this is just next level finesse. I mean, if I were like Academy right now with the other P-38F in existence, I would just throw in the towel. Just fuck it, we're done building models. We're going to make soap or something now. Alright, moving on from the ailerons and the wingtips, we hit the turbochargers. Now, looking carefully at this, and the way that things install, I see no reason to install all of the separate little detail parts at this time. Because basically you have F20 as essentially the housing for the turbocharger, and it gets installed just like that. And there's nothing in here that I can see that requires installation before it can slot in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as with everything else on this kit, yoink. And the cool thing is, these little tabs on the back here will help locate the booms when they go to install. Alright, now it's time to move into the right boom assembly, and we're going to start with the gear base. So here we got D12 and C47 hooked up. Next we got to do D7 and C45. So for this, put a little bit of extra thin on the inside of this thing here. And there we go. That is attached. So this piece has a little locator pin. So does the floor down here. My oh my. That's great. So it sticks in back here, sticks into the locator pin, and also has a little area up front. I love it when kits dance like this. The frustrating thing is I think there are parts in here that I just didn't paint, so I might have to pause and go paint those. Which is annoying. I just don't want to expend any more effort. And this thing has all the alignment aids. Cool to see. Not only got these tabs, it's like also got this little pin back here, just to make sure everything sits the way it should. Alright, so this is C16. It's apparently supposed to fit into here and here, just like so. Then we've got the front of the bay. Another perfect slot in. Got to love that. So this has to slot. This is one of those ones where I need like more fingers than I have, more hands than I have. Good Lord. Oh, that was a little bit more maneuvering than I was anticipating. Like some fiddly ass little parts. Ah, I see. Here, we've got an ejector pin we're going to have to deal with. And so this not only locks in over here, but also here and here. And I'm definitely going to need to come in and touch this up with some paint because I don't know, I painted like the wrong side or something. And it needs a bit more life to it than that. And there's the other side of the gear bay. I've got this fine C8 part. So it basically acts like a clip of some kind to hold shit together. I like that. So there's one gear bay. Looking pretty solid so far. Definitely need to get back in here and do a few touch-ups, particularly to the big hose that runs over where the wheel goes. Just, I don't know, I painted the wrong thing or something. Also going to wait to install the hydraulic rams for the doors, which go, where do those go? Those go back here. Because I have heard some horror stories about those things being knocked off, and it should be very easy to come in here and plop those in near the end of the build. And here is the second gear bay. And now that these are together, I think this is a pretty natural stopping point for episode 3. And it's pretty stunning to look back and see how quickly this kit has built up. I mean, there was a lot of work to get these things weathered up before they were built, but literally each one of these goes together in a handful of minutes, if that. We also got the cockpit installed into the fuselage. We got the gun doors and the nose installed. We got the quick boost gun mounts installed. And we got the wings all sorted out, except the control surfaces, the ailerons are still loose. I'll deal with those at a later time. There's really no rush because they fit in there so well, just slotting in. Got the gear bay installed, we got the lower wings, all that good stuff. I haven't touched the landing lights yet. Those will happen much closer to actual paint. But yeah, I mean, this thing builds up exceptionally quickly considering how complicated it is of an aircraft. I mean, Tamiya's really outdone themselves in terms of engineering of this thing. So when we come back, it'll be time to start playing with the left and right booms, and getting the gear bays installed into these things, getting the scoops on the bottom installed, all that good stuff, and hopefully mating them up to the fuselage. But I'll just have to see kind of how long that video is running. But we're moving right along, and I think this thing will be into at least primer in the very near future. So thanks for following along. Keep an eye out for episode 4 coming in the nearest future. And if you want to see it a bit early, you can always subscribe to my Patreon page at patreon.com/DugsModels, where I not only post early access to these types of videos, also post behind the scenes things of stuff I'm thinking about, stuff I'm working on, and right now a lot of the weird, interesting 3D printing that I have going on now that the TIE Interceptor is wrapped up. So, thanks for watching, and I will catch you later.